अभी हम जिस विषय पे बात करेंगे दैट इज डॉक्टर अम्बेडकर ने एक सपना देखा था कि सोशियो पॉलिटिकल एंड इकोनॉमिक इक्वालिटी हो, खास तौर पे जो मार्जिनलाइज सेक्शन है जो सालों से इससे दूर रहा है उसके लिए। और इस विषय पे हम बात करेंगे। हमारे साथ पैनल में दो लोग होंगे, मैम नीतू बदान प्लीज और डॉक्टर राज जरतन अम्बेडकर जी। आपने कल सुना है और सब जानते हैं दोनों के बारे में। और जब हम इक्वालिटी की बात करते हैं तो निश्चित तौर पे जो दो लोग हैं इस पैनल में, उनसे बेहतर अभी इस ऑडिटोरियम में मुझे कोई दिख नहीं रहा है। प्लीज आप स्वागत करिए। या
जय भीम।
समय का पूरा उपयोग करते हैं, इन लोगों को सुनते हैं कि आखिर किस तरीके से जिस विषय पे
I think it's easier for me if some of it's in English.
Okay, yeah.
Just to make sure I answer correctly.
So actually Dr. Ambedkar has a vision. He wants equality for social equality, social equality, political and economic equality for marginalized section of India, and he wants to that equality for all people of India. So my first question is how far the people from marginalized community get this all three equality in last 75 years? What do you think, Mr. Rajathan Ambedkar? I can start with you.
Okay. First of all, Jai Bhim, Namo Buddhaya to everyone. Yesterday in the second session, we had a discussion on this legal framework on emancipation. The Indian High Commission, which was invited, I remember Modi's speech when he goes out of India and he says, India, ये भारत में सब चंगा सी, भारत में सब अच्छा चल रहा है. So this way of presentation, whatever is going on in India, is in the outer world. But in fact, what is going on in India, in 75 years of independence also, we are celebrating Amrut Mahotsav or Amrut Kal of some independence. At the same month, in the same month, in which we were celebrating 75 years of independence, in the same month, a child who touched a pot in school, a water pot of some higher caste teacher, he was beaten to death. He was beaten to death. In 75 years of independence also, we have not got social justice. So we are talking about Sabka Saath and Sabka Vikas on this platform. Sabka Saath and Sabka Vikas. So the reservations which is imbibed in constitution to uplift the downtrodden in the public sector, the finance minister of our country announces in the parliament that in the period of 2 years, in phased manner, we are going to sell each and every public sector, we are going to privatize each and every public sector where the downtrodden communities, scheduled caste, scheduled tribes, OBCs are guaranteed some jobs for them to uplift their community. And the finance minister is announcing that we are going to sell all the public sector, and after their announcement, the question was raised in parliament whether there will be reservation for these communities in private sector. The finance minister, Honorable Finance Minister of India, said there will be no reservation in private sector. So on the one hand, they are going to sell public sector. On the other hand, they are not going to give reservations to these downtrodden communities in private sector. So your Article 340, 341 is abolished. New education policy has been implemented in India. Madhya Pradesh has implemented this policy. Other states are going to implement these policies where foreign players and private players are going to be invited to education sector. Article 21C of Indian Constitution says that education will be the solely responsibility of the states. If education is the responsibility of states, then why Ambanis and Adanis are going to have their own education system? So, in the 75 years of independence, we are the Indian democracy or the Indian constitution is going from the period of turbulence. This is a period of turbulence, and what atmosphere they have created is that, like yesterday some students came to me. They were also opposing such kind of talk which was given by Indian High Commission that women empowerment is going on. When you are talking about women empowerment in India, at the same time, the culprits of Bilkis Bano were released. Why? Bilkis Bano's rapists were released because their behavior was good in prison. So, I don't want that such kind of message should be going to India, because otherwise Modi has their own platform. Over there also he talks this rubbish, and this is our platform, and from theirs also we are going to give this kind of message. Then it's some kind of hijacking of our program also. So such kind of situation is going on in India. Democracy is at risk. Constitution is at risk. Now they have introduced one act, Unlawful Activities Prevention Act, UAPA. If you talk against about the government, they simply charge you under this act. Sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's okay. Good morning. I think that in order for us to, and I'm going to speak about it in the sense of what happens, as Dr. Ambedkarji said, when it goes to other countries, and the vision he had for equality in other countries. Because in America, where I sit as a judge of California, is not so different politically in that turmoil right now, with the divisiveness, even as old as America can seem. But when these issues of equality go from, for South Asians at least, from India to other countries, then we're looking at ways we can use Dr. Ambedkar's words to make sure equality is not just the word if you look like what they think Americans look like, but for every person, because nearly every person, there's so many immigrants even in America. In reading, in reading and rereading the manifesto, and also doing research on Amrit Kaul, because most of you know I work in a criminal court, the economic disadvantages of people in marginalized groups cannot be realized or redressed until they're empowered. Now, the government, both in India and America, have opportunities for marginalized groups to come through. But it's exactly what he just said. You can't have people saying one thing and doing another. So until we have a way to redress the issues of laws on the books that allow children to go to school but can still be beaten to death for touching a pot, that very instance there in that snapshot is what we have to eradicate. And if we can't, then we're not moving forward. And so that's really the question, is how then do we go, even after 75 years, and I said this yesterday, we're saying the same things that Dr. Ambedkarji said in 1916 at an anthropology seminar, right? We're saying the same things, and how can we effectuate that change? Now, once we empower groups, and I can't be too political, but this, in India, there's a process of election, but in other places, it's using your own redress systems to achieve equality. So for example, in America, it's using the systems in place to indicate that you've been discriminated against, that you've been hurt in some way. You know, I grew up in Sacramento where there is a large South Asian community, but I was related to most of them. But the schools that I went to did not have a lot of South Asian people. It wasn't until I was in college that I encountered people telling me who was Brahmin and who was this and who was not. So here I am at the UCLA campus, right? And I'm like, what is happening? But I'm going to go back to education and bringing equality. I'm quite sure that some of those same people who asked me questions on my first day, if they came into my courtroom, right, they'd still have to sit below me and say, "You're on now," right? Because my education has surpassed them. And that is where the power is. So if we're going to use equality to get to empowerment, it's empowerment to education, equality to education to become where we can. That is the only tool we have to surpass all of these other things.
Lots of people can say that Jrtn Ambedkar and Ashok Das sit in Canada. Thousands of people is in Canada and USA. Neetu Badan is justice. Okay, so we get lots of things. Okay, तो सब कुछ गड़बड़ ही है क्या राजरतन जी? ये जो अमृत काल की बात हो रही है, अमृत की कुछ बूंदे पहुंची हैं क्या? क्योंकि सामने वाले कहते हैं कि हाँ इतना अचीवमेंट हो गया, ये कितना how far we need to go, is it satisfactory?
नहीं, सी मैं ये नहीं कहूँगा कि सभी हमारे
और
साथ बुरा ही हो रहा है।
चैलेंजेस सबसे ज्यादा कहाँ देख रहे हैं आप, सोशियो पॉलिटिकल और इकोनॉमिक?
सी गलती कहीं ना कहीं हमारे भी है. The fault is ours also. Baba Saheb Ambedkar has given constitution on 26 November 1949. It was implemented from 26 January 1950. Baba Saheb Ambedkar has clearly told what we have to achieve from this constitution. Justice. Which justice? Social, economical and political. But till today, we are not fighting for social justice. We are not fighting for economical justice. We are only craving for political justice. We are only craving for political justice. And we got that justice also. It is not that case we don't have political justice. But without social and economical justice, the political justice which we have earned is of no use. We have 135 member of parliaments only reserved for scheduled caste and scheduled tribe community. 135 is not a less number. It is a big number. Earlier we have one president from scheduled caste community. Now scheduled tribe community has the president. So we have two presidents, one SC and ST. But this, without social and economical fight, without achieving economical and social justice, the political justice which we have achieved is of no use, because these 135 member of parliaments are not raising a single question, a single issue of scheduled caste or scheduled tribe in the parliaments. We have just 1 week earlier, the print or the wire had one interview with Governor Satyapal Malik. He said that to meet the governor, the president, the list is approved from PM office. So, what kind of presidents they are selecting from us? They are only rubber stamp. They don't have that much authority to meet anyone which PMO has not approved. So this political justice we are having, this is clearly our fault, that we have not built our economical system. We are still dependent on education given by government. We are still dependent on Godi medias or these Brahminical media to show our issues. We have that much power. We are sitting in Canada. We are celebrating Baba Saheb Ambedkar's birth anniversary in Canada. Not only in Canada.
Yeah.
UK is celebrating. Australia is celebrating. US is celebrating. Then we are only doing the hero worshipping. We are doing only hero worshipping. We are not concentrating our resources on building these institutes, media, education, economy. We are only using our resources to celebrate our forefathers, to celebrate our Masihas.
I agree. I think we can't be just doing hero worship. Now, what is it? How can we get from moving just from political power to social justice and economic power? I'm going to give some examples. I did a lot of work before I was a judge with the South Asian Network. This is based in Southern California. What is the design of that network? Is to give resources in the community, finding small businesses in these groups that can get small business loans. That's the economic portion. Help people grow their businesses. If they're in an area that is predominantly, say, South Asian, and they're facing caste discrimination as well as issues of poverty, as they are in some areas, even in California, micro business loans in these areas are very, very important to get businesses, small businesses, put forth. In a lot of these areas that are predominantly South Asian, it is mostly small businesses, but that is how people grow, and that is how we create generational wealth. You know, we talk about generational wealth across all socioeconomic sectors. In the United States, there's so many articles written about generational wealth, and even when you buy property, okay, so many people that are disadvantaged below the poverty line are prevented on passing on anything because they don't own anything. And it's the same thing in our communities in India. If you are prevented from owning the land that you're working on, you can't pass it on to your children. Instead, you pass that indentureship or that servitude on to your children, and that's what we've done. So we have to start empowering to buy, to own, and some of that on the very grassroots level. So though you may have people in parliament, the work on the ground is the grassroots level, where you're using your organizations to either help businesses get microloans, help people get into programs to buy real property for their families. So even if they're not in India, they've created their own generational wealth in their own country for their children. That's how we change, because there's an expectation when we are an oppressed group that we will never become anything else. But when I show you that I own something and my child owns something, I create legacy. And so it's not just idol worship then. Then we're using his memory to create a strengthening legacy for the future. That we're not just this group that can't do anything, but now we're a group that can buy and have power and have economic success. And then you interchange that with education. At some point, you know, education is astronomical in the US. People take out enormous amounts of student loans if they don't come from a place of money or have parents that can pay for it. But what happens within 1 or 2 generations, if you've used that education to get somewhere, you've built educational wealth in your family. Your children then are seeking postgraduate degrees and so on and so on. And then they're reaching positions to uplift other people. So social justice outside of political power starts on the ground in these groups. And in every area, there are resources to make sure. And it doesn't just go, you know, we forget that social justice is not just justice in being heard, but it's something I said yesterday. All of us can have this conversation, but if we go home and nothing changes, it doesn't make much of a difference. If you're going home and you're treating your spouse poorly, it doesn't make a difference about the conversation you're having. If you're only arguing and celebrating women empowerment out in public because it sounds good, then you really are just doing hero worship. You have to be the change. You have to uplift the women in your community. Studies show that in every country, when you invest in women and girls especially, their gross national product goes up. You look at India being the largest democracy of the world, and you can imagine what could happen if they invested, right? And what a superpower they already are, but could become in the future, because that's everywhere. So it's grassroots. That's how we move from just doing political to both social and economic.
Yeah. We always said governments did not do that thing, this thing for us. After 25 years, India reached at 100 years of their independence. What do you think? What is our responsibility? Our community person's responsibilities, and how can we do better? How can we reach? हम कैसे अपना गोल अचीव कर सकते हैं? क्योंकि हर चीज़ के लिए हम सरकार पे डिपेंड नहीं हो सकते. हमें बहुत चीज़ें मिली कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन की वजह से. हमारी जिम्मेदारी क्या होती है हमारी सोसाइटी की?
See, I will quote one incident of Baba Saheb Ambedkar as you are a judge. Baba Saheb Ambedkar was offered the chair of judge of Bombay High Court. He was appointed as a judge of Bombay High Court. And in his writing a speech, I got that material to read. Baba Saheb's Hindi or Marathi writing is that कि ही घोरपड़ कौन गळ्यात बांधून घेईल यानी ये घोरपड़ is one kind of animal. So he says the post of judge, he says who will stuck this animal in the neck? If I sit in this courtroom from 10 to 5, how I will give justice to my community, my people? So Baba Saheb denied that post. And because Baba Saheb denied that post, we got lakhs of jobs in our life. That because of Baba Saheb denial of that one post. So I always says that the right on our salary is not of our father or mother or husband or spouse. The first right on our salary is of Dr. Baba Saheb Ambedkar. So that's why Baba Saheb Ambedkar told that from your salary or from your resources, give 20% of your resources to the society. From that 20% of the society, we have to build our own institutions. Baba Saheb Ambedkar, before embracing Buddhism, Baba Saheb embraced Buddhism in the year 1956. But in the 1946, 10 years earlier, he built People's Education Society and he built his own colleges, schools. So he had his own education system. He was not relying on government. So Baba Saheb Ambedkar was doing 100 years before. We are not doing now. So we have to build our own education system. We have to build our own economical system. I will like to give some insights of what you talked about loans. This year, I got one application from our student. State Bank of India is a bank, nationalized bank in India, which is authorized to give students the education loan. Our one student who was selected at the MBBS seat, she got the MBBS seat, but she was not having the fees. Every year the fees was 35 lakh rupees per year of 5 years course. So she applied for education loan to State Bank of India. The State Bank of India denied education loan to that girl child. She was not given the education loan for past 3 years. She is not allowed to sit for the examination. So in the year 2023, we are not able to create one doctor from our own community. We are not able to contribute to our students. And the same State Bank of India is giving loans to Adani and waiving their loans 1 lakh crore, 72,000 crore. These are the two loans which SBI has waived in the past 6 months. So we need our own economical systems. Baba Saheb Ambedkar wrote in the year 1923 problem of rupee. On this problem of rupee, Reserve Bank of India was established in India, and this Reserve Bank of India is governing all banking sector in India. So Baba Saheb Ambedkar's research is being used by the banking system, and we are not using Baba Saheb Ambedkar's research. So this year we completed 100 years, and that's why not only celebrating 100 years of Baba Saheb Ambedkar's research, we worked on that. For past 2 years, I am working on this economical system, and this 1st April 2023, which is the establishment date of Reserve Bank of India, we established Dr. B.R. Ambedkar Cooperative Multi-State Bank in India, and we have urged the people of India not to keep your money, hard-earned money, in the Brahminical banks,
and we have to keep our own money in our own platform so that our money will be financed to our own students and entrepreneurs for loans. Because we have that much resources with us. In the year 2020, when lockdown was there, Babasaheb Ambedkar's birth anniversary was not celebrated worldwide. Just 1 second. On 16th of April 2020, Economic Times, online Economic Times, published one news about Babasaheb Ambedkar's birth anniversary, that due to lockdown, Babasaheb Ambedkar's birth anniversary was not celebrated in India, and the Indian economy was affected by 2,100 crore rupees. So this much of resources, money we are spending on Babasaheb Ambedkar birth anniversary in one day, that is on 14th April. So this much of resources we are having. So if these resources will divert to education, economy, then our own community in India also, it will be empowered, it will be strengthened, it will be the community which Babasaheb Ambedkar dreamed about. Thank you.
Final remarks? Okay. I think I'll just say shortly that our responsibility, as he was just saying, is to be responsible to our community. And I will follow that by saying, for those of us that have used our education to get to positions, I'm very aware of personally my responsibility to my community, which means that I have to be the best I can be already. You know, somebody asked me yesterday about, and this will be my closing remarks, about diversity. And in the United States, when I was appointed to the judgeship, I had a question at a seminar quite like this with someone saying, what do you think about your diversity appointment? As if I was appointed to my position by the governor only because I filled, checked the box that said South Asian and they needed another woman of color. And what I told them is, in every job that people of color, and in our case, South Asians and oppressed communities, apply for, just to get to the application point and pick up the piece of paper, we often have to be double qualified. If you're a woman going for some of those positions, you have to be triple qualified. So I reminded that person in the audience that thought they were being very cheeky asking me a question, that my appointment did not just check a box, because I had to be almost 4 times qualified than they were just to get to the table, right? And those are the things that we have to remember when we get here, that we have to reach over and lift everyone else up, right? We can't just stay. So I know that when I go anywhere, I represent my community, and I do it without fear. And you heard me say this yesterday, we have to be fearless in being okay with who we are. So it's just like when we go home and we change our story. When we're out here and we show our face, we can't be ashamed of who we are. We can't be ashamed of where we come from, because when we're taking steps back and we're giving those people the power. So in closing, I would say our responsibility is to be here and to be real, and give that to the younger generation so they are unafraid in everything they do.
Yeah, thank you so much. और जरतन जी ने जो कहा, मैं उसी से क्लोज करूंगा कि बाबा साहब डॉक्टर अंबेडकर ने डिनाई किया कि वो नहीं बनेंगे जज, और इतने लोगों को उन्होंने जज और क्या क्या बना दिया। लेकिन आज के वक्त में डिसअपॉइंटिंग ये है कि एक एमपी बनने के लिए लोग अपने आप को गिरवी रख देते हैं। सिर्फ 2 लोगों ने, बाबा साहब डॉक्टर अंबेडकर ने डिनाई किया, उन्होंने इतनी चीजें दी, एंड सेकंड वन कांशीराम, जिन्होंने कुछ लिया नहीं, और उनकी सिर्फ ईमानदारी थी कि कभी इन लोगों ने कॉम्प्रोमाइज नहीं किया, और इनके कॉम्प्रोमाइज नहीं करने की वजह से हम तमाम लोगों को बहुत कुछ मिला। थैंक यू सो मच। थैंक यू।
Thank you, Ashok, Dr. Rajgopal, and Honorable Judge Negri. Thank you. Once again, give them a round of applause. You know what, there's a term called dynamic conflict. And I'm glad that some of the things that he did to be talked about, they came out, right? And one of the purposes for having this symposium was for us to take the time to rethink, right? And re-strategize. and ask our questions, the work that we've been doing over the last 75 years, how effective has that been? If we hear that progress is not being made, then we have to ask the question, why is that the case?